King Arthur, Knight's Tale review, my fair review. So what happens when you combine Darkest Dungeon 1 mechanics with cRPGs like Divinity Original Sin or Wasteland? King Arthur, Knight's Tale happen, thank God. So let's say that this game is my strong game of the year contender for 2022. Let's begin with sections and rate this game properly as it deserves. First section is the story. Story follows Sir Mordred into afterlife, or better to say, into the land where dead reside, Avalon. He killed Arthur in Britannia, his nemesis. He also died in that process, and now he's woken up again to fight Arthur and save Avalon. He will gather his knights of the Round Table in Camelot, from Merlin to Sir Lancelot, on his undying quest to kill Arthur again. Cinematics are included in the game after every act. Story is rich, from the explanation of missions, narration, all the way to NPCs' interactions. There are jokes, depends on companion and of its quest, of course. There is some hilarious writing, and of course there is also some good writing from time to time. For some reason, just when you end the game and endgame content opens up, you'll realize how unfinished the game is. But don't worry, main campaign is straight huge. What bothered me the most is endgame non-existent story. Everything you loved about the game will disappear once you kill Arthur and those credits show up. As far as story goes, I love the setting, darkness, grim world of Avalon and its characters. If history can invent and convince you that Arthur and Round Table existed, then why the hell not you like fictional game world even more, right? 8 out of 10 for the story. Next section is game bugs and optimization. I streamed and played on good config and it works superb in my case. I'm aware that people are having problems with this game. From my point of view, game was overheating my PC and I could fry an egg on its case. On the other side, it worked extremely well, stable 100 frames per second on ultra settings. Minor amount of bugs, stutters and frame drops on only 2 out of 50 maps, fast loading screens on SSD. Never seen a single glitch in the game, by the way. There was one game-breaking bug that I resolved by resetting the entire mission again, so that would be it, 8 out of 10 for game bugs and optimization. Next section is game time. It took me around 100 hours to finish the game on the hardest difficulty available, so yes, this is a huge game, huge campaign, and I still got 20 maps left to do in the endgame unfinished content. So we're talking about 150 hours long game here. There is more, by the way, replay value. Amazing replay value. I played with Righteous Christian Path that unlocks specific missions and companions. There is also Old Fate Tyrant Path, Old Fate Righteous Path, and Tyrant Christian Path with its own specific quests, upgrades, and companions. Straight amazing for the lovers of the genre. There's easily 600 hours of content here if you want to see everything that the game has to offer. 10 out of 10 for game time. Money well spent. Game difficulty, that's the next section. As I said, I played on the hardest difficulty available in the game, the so-called very hard difficulty. I can only say that I never seen such a great AI in a turn-based game. In a lot of cases, I had a feeling like I was playing against actual human being, a very smart one too. That's how brilliant the AI is. Enemies know exactly how to avoid Overwatch, when to stop, when to charge, how to protect their squishes, how to ignore your tanks and go for your main damage dealers. On top of all of it, the game is balanced to perfection as far as campaign goes, not the endgame content. It always felt agonizing and rewarding to finish missions and progress. When you get stumped, you made mistakes, and on its hardest difficulty, there is literally no room for a single mistake during combat, while fights can easily last from 10 minutes to 30 minutes and above. I got challenged and I got a lot of fun. Just absolutely amazing with this section, 10 out of 10. Next section is maps and graphics. amazing amount of maps in Avalon. All is covered, from swamps and caves to cathedrals and dungeons, from rain to snow, from forests to deserts. Diversity is there, and every map feels unique, handcrafted with its own side quests, and curious. Minimap is there too, of course, as well as great world map of Avalon. Graphics are great for isometric turn-based cRPG. This is a very dark game, by the way, just the way I love it. 10 out of 10. Next section, and the most important one, would be gameplay. So what you do in this game? If you play Darkest Dungeon, that's how managing Camelot and your companions work. You buff buildings for various stat boosts, and you buff your allies with various gear and skills. As far as gameplay goes, it's addicting as hell. Turn-based masterpiece with tons of ambushes, boss fights, surprises, loot encounters, wave encounters, time limits encounters, as well as classic charge encounters. Everything is covered that you can imagine. From cRPG part, choices and consequences in conversations are covered. It depends if you decide to go with Righteous or Tyrant way, Old Faith or Christian way. On nearly every mission you'll acquire new companions for your round table. They will belong to Righteous or Tyrant tier, and they will also be neutral, Old Faith or Christian. 60% of your game time will go into combat, 10% to exploration of maps, that's the cRPG part, and 30% will go towards managing your castle in Camelot, upgrades and item distribution, Darkest Dungeon-like part. Gameplay, as far as combat goes, is a blast. I loved every second of every encounter in the game. Everything felt unique, every single encounter. Just amazing for such a long game, there is so little repetition. This is one of the best isometric turn-based games ever created in terms of gameplay, to be honest. 10 out of 10. Next section is leveling and itemization. Sweet part, extremely sweet, long one too, so I'll keep it short if I can. You will upgrade and manage buildings in your castle, hospice, mage tower, round table, and so on. Those buildings will provide various boosts before missions, more experience gain, more loot, or they will provide straight stats up bonuses like more vitality, for example, or more HP. There is plenty to do and upgrade. Next part is of course classic leveling of your hero and his companions through experience and skill points. You receive skill points when completing missions or while training in the camp. Also, there are books that will provide 50% of XP for a level. With every level, you'll gain 2 skill points. Sometimes building upgrades and specific NPCs on map also provide skill points. So, with every level, you gain 2 skill points and invest into 3 different tiers of combat, active and passive abilities. Raise action points, raise health, raise damage, boost spells and skills to hurt even more or provide bigger AoE, and so on. Your companions will come in different classes, from classic two-hander champions with cleave and charge bleeding effects to sages that will give extra action points or damage buffs, to ranged mages or melee mages, classic marksmen, classic backstabbing rogues, vanguards, to Mordred's main class defenders with shields, downs, stuns, buffs and debuffs. Every companion is unique with different sets of abilities. For example, having 2 arcanists, or better to say 2 mages, doesn't mean that they will use same weapons and spells. One will be fire hexes ranged, while the other one will be teleport backstabbing shocker. Same applies for every class and companion in the game now. Downed defender, charge defender, caster defender, poison arrows marksman, fire arrow marksman, bombs marksman, freeze damage sage or buffer healer sage. The list goes on for 30 unique companions. Final part goes to itemization. 3 tiers of items, greens, blues and relics here. You can equip classic torso armor, weapon and 2 trinkets as well as 2 consumables per map. Some relics even provide special spells that will activate once you cast 5 spells in a row or receive 7 hits in a row and so on. You will issue different decrees and laws from your castle in Camelot for various boosts during missions too. One important thing to mention is also that your heroes have a loyalty bar. The more Christian choices you make, the more you'll be liked by your Christian heroes, and they will raise their damage percentage and receive bonus action points along the way. Same applies for Tyrant choices. Tyrant champs will like you more, rightful choices, rightful champs will like you more. Last thing to mention is companions' specialty while working in a specific building. They will provide specific boosts like faster healing, more relic dust after missions, so you can buy relic items, or more gold after missions, and so on. Overall, a rich leveling and itemization that copies a lot from Darkest Dungeon and XCOM games and upgrades on them. It copies a lot in its own good and specific way, because it also adds a lot of elements from classic cRPGs, and that's the best part. Tons of things to do in short, and they feel rewarding and satisfying and addicting while doing it. 10 out of 10 for leveling and itemization. Next section is NPCs and enemies. I lost count of how many NPCs this game has, from 30 plus companions to random NPCs on maps, from Merlin and Lancelot to main hero Mordred. They all talk, they all got their specific quests and storylines. Enemies are bloody amazing. As I said, best AI that I've seen in a turn-based isometric game, but that aside, you'll fight against classic brigands and knights, you'll fight against the last, or so-called undead, you'll fight against Seelie and Unseelie, against Picts and against Fomorians, so there will be 5 or 6 different races to fight with. Every race will have plenty of different units, from classic chargers, tanks to ranged and mages, as well as mini and mega bosses at the end of each act. Bosses are crazy good, and they usually come in 2 phases, with a lot of minions protecting them during those phases. I enjoyed fighting undead the most, while I absolutely hated fighting Unseelie on the hardest difficulty. They were straight OP and irritating. All in all, variety of enemies, bosses and NPCs is just great. It's a very long game too, so 10 out of 10. Last section is music and sound. Great main theme, good sound effects, and very solid voice acting. Every line of text during the campaign is voice acted. I loved every minute of this game, and voice acting, it just added to immersion a lot. 10 out of 10. Final verdict. We got 9 sections with 86 points, and that would be 9.55 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10 to be more precise. For King Arthur Knight's Tale. Amazing isometric Darkest Dungeon-like cRPG in turn-based mod. It was a blast playing this, so much that I'll probably replay this game as Old Fate Tyrant in a year or 2 from now. I rarely replay games, but this one deserves one more run. It was challenging to the brink of madness, it was addicting, and it was fun. For 100 hours it kept me focused, and I was never bored of it. The price looks a bit hilarious, but it's worth every penny considering the quality, amount of time, and replay value that you'll have over here. For everyone that loved the Darkest Dungeon, Divinity Original Sin, Wasteland 2 and 3 or XCOM series, this game is an absolute must play. So far, in 2022, there are 2 more games that are competing for Game of the Year with King Arthur: Expeditions Rome and Elden Ring. I played them all, finished them, and I enjoyed King Arthur the most out of them all so far, and I'm well aware that both Rome and Elden Ring are higher quality games. I still like the darkness and setting in King Arthur way much more. Imagine giving Elden Ring money to King Arthur devs. What freaking monster game they would be able to make with that crazy amount of money. Just imagine. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.